I think it's time to return back home.
Oh my God. I'm waiting for you.
Bye-bye. See you next year.
Okay. Mido, come back.
Be or not to be? This is the problem.
You are hot. You're good looking.
What you say? You will be my agent?
Mido did not announce that he wanted to leave America during one of their explosive fights. He waited until Debby brought him inside a wedding chapel. She was talking about getting married within 3 weeks. For the first time, their vague future was becoming an actual plan. And that was when Mido said it might be time to return to Egypt. Debby looked completely stunned. But honestly, what part of this was truly surprising? Mido had not proposed. He struggled to give Debby basic reassurance. He became more animated talking about Hollywood than talking about their relationship. Debby noticed that difference herself and admitted it worried her. Then she made a dangerous decision. She stopped asking serious questions. For a little while, they argued less. Debby saw that as progress. It was not progress. It was silence disguised as peace. But Mido was not the only person avoiding reality. Debby said she would not marry him until he proved she was his priority. Then she brought him to a chapel without warning and announced a wedding timeline before receiving any proof. That was not normal wedding planning. It was a test, and Mido failed it in the most dramatic way possible. But his exact words made the scene even more suspicious. He did not clearly say he had stopped loving Debby. He said he could not find himself here. Did here mean America? Did it mean New Orleans? Did it mean the life Debby expected him to accept? Or was he leaving enough room for Debby to offer him a different future closer to Hollywood? Then comes the contradiction that changes this entire storyline. According to secondary reporting citing Louisiana marriage records, Debby and Mido reportedly married in December 2025. So how does a man go from wanting to return to Egypt inside a wedding chapel to reportedly marrying the woman standing beside him? That answer may prove this was never only about a wedding. It was about control, money, identity, ambition, and which person would be forced to sacrifice more. Before the chapel disaster, Debby believed things were finally improving. She and Mido were spending time together without immediately falling into another argument. They were laughing. They appeared more relaxed. For Debby, that probably felt like a huge relief after weeks of tension. Then she explained why they were getting along. She had stopped bringing up difficult subjects. That one confession tells us almost everything about this relationship. Debby did not solve the communication problem. She removed communication. Healthy couples do not protect their relationship by avoiding every conversation that might create discomfort. They learn how to discuss uncomfortable subjects without punishing, threatening, or shutting each other out. Debby and Mido were doing the exact opposite. Debby had learned that questions about commitment could trigger anger, defensiveness, or emotional withdrawal from Mido. So she stopped asking. Mido became easier to live with because nobody was challenging him. Debby felt calmer because she was no longer hearing answers that frightened her. But the real problem stayed exactly where they had always been. Did Mido want to marry her? Was he emotionally invested? Did he see New Orleans as his home? Did he see Debby as his partner? Or also as the person financing his American future? Those questions did not disappear. They were simply pushed underground. And buried problems do not stay buried forever. They wait for the worst possible moment to return. That is exactly what happened inside the chapel. From the outside, Debby and Mido looked calmer. Underneath, both people were quietly building resentment. Debby was probably thinking, I gave him time. I gave him space. I opened my home. Why can he not give me simple reassurance? Mido may have been thinking, I left my country, my family, and everything familiar. Why am I being pushed toward a life that does not feel like mine? Both believe they have sacrificed more. And when both people feel unappreciated, every request starts feeling like a transaction. That became impossible to ignore when Mido met with a talent agent. For one of the first times this season, viewers saw him come alive. He talked about becoming a successful actor. He discussed improving his English. He heard that he needed acting lessons. He imagined himself reaching Hollywood. His entire energy changed. He became more focused, more expressive, and more enthusiastic. That difference mattered because Debby saw it too. When she asked about their relationship, Mido often appeared uncomfortable, distant, or irritated. When someone asked him about acting, he suddenly had plenty to say. Now, that does not automatically prove he came to America only for fame. People naturally become excited when discussing their dreams. Acting may be the strongest part of Mido's identity. After moving internationally, he may fear losing the one thing that made him feel confident and important. That is a fair point. But the contrast still creates a very uncomfortable question. Why does the possibility of an acting career create more visible excitement than the possibility of marrying Debby? And that question became even more serious when money entered the conversation. Mido wanted English classes and acting lessons. Those classes could help him build confidence, improve his communication, and move closer to the career he wants. But Debby made it clear that she did not want to pay until they established where their relationship stood. From Debby's perspective, that makes sense. Why should she invest more money into Mido's American future when she does not even know whether he wants a future with her? She does not want to fund the exact dream she fears could eventually pull him away. But from Mido's perspective, the situation may feel very different. Without better English, professional connections, reliable transportation, or independent income, he remains completely dependent on Debby. That kind of dependence can quickly turn into resentment. The classes may represent more than Hollywood. They may represent freedom. They may represent dignity. They may represent a chance for Mido to become someone other than Debby's fiancé, living inside Debby's house. And this is where the relationship becomes deeply conditional. Debby's position appears to be, show me commitment, and then I will support your dream. Mido's implied position appears closer to, support the life I want, and then maybe I will feel ready to commit. Both are waiting for the other person to take the first risk. Debby does not trust him enough to invest. Mido does not appear committed enough to earn that trust. So nothing moves. Until Debby decides to force movement herself. She finds a small wedding chapel and takes Mido there as a surprise. And we need to be fair about this moment. Even someone who genuinely wants to get married could feel uncomfortable being taken to a venue without warning. Mido did not know he was walking into a serious planning conversation. Then he heard Debby telling someone they could marry within 3 weeks. That is pressure. Being in America through a fiancé process does not mean every wedding decision should happen without a private conversation. Mido had a valid reason to feel ambushed. But his reaction went far beyond asking Debby to slow down. He looked like the entire reality of marrying her had suddenly become terrifying. And eventually, he moved from feeling pressured to talking about leaving the country. That response suggests the idea of going home probably did not begin inside the chapel. The venue did not create his doubts. It exposed them. Before that moment, Mido could focus on acting classes. Debby could keep telling herself that patience would fix everything. They could continue living together while acting like the deadline was not getting closer. Inside the chapel, that escape disappeared. Someone asked when they wanted to get married. Debby answered. Mido could no longer hide behind vague language. That is why the chapel scene matters so much. Debby viewed the remaining visa time as urgency. Mido experienced that exact same timeline as pressure. To Debby, the deadline meant, we need to begin our future. To Mido, it seemed to mean, I am losing time to decide whether I even want this future. Those are not small differences. Those are two completely different understandings of why he is there. And Debby's behavior contains another major contradiction. She had said Mido needed to prove that she was his priority. She wanted emotional reassurance. She wanted commitment. She wanted proof that acting was not the main reason he wanted to remain in America. But she never received that proof. She brought him to the chapel anyway. That tells me the venue was not only a romantic surprise. It was a final test. Debby wanted to place Mido directly in front of marriage and study his reaction. Maybe she hoped the setting would make him excited. Maybe she thought he would finally understand how little time remained. Maybe she believed that once the wedding process began, his emotions would catch up. Instead, his reaction confirmed the fear she had spent weeks trying to avoid. The problem is that relationship tests usually fail for a reason. One partner secretly creates a situation. The other partner does not know what response is expected. Then both people leave believing the reaction proves something. Debby saw Mido's panic and heard rejection. Mido saw the surprise and felt controlled. Neither person felt understood. And this is where Debby's 6-year investment becomes impossible to ignore. After defending a relationship for that long, walking away becomes emotionally expensive. Ending things would not only mean losing Mido. It could mean admitting that her daughter had valid concerns. It could mean accepting that her friends noticed warning signs she chose to dismiss. It could mean questioning years of promises, travel, waiting, planning, and emotional investment. That is why people sometimes continue investing in relationships even when the evidence becomes painful. The more they have already sacrificed, the harder it becomes to stop. Debby may not only be fighting for the relationship she has now. She may be fighting to protect the meaning of everything she already gave up. That does not make her foolish, but it can make her dangerously willing to accept less than she originally said she needed. Mido also holds a form of power in this relationship. Debby controls the practical structure of his American life. She has the home. She has more financial stability. She understands the language, the system, and the environment. She may also control whether certain classes or opportunities become affordable. But Mido controls emotional certainty. He controls whether Debby receives affection. He controls whether she hears reassurance. He controls whether the wedding moves forward. And when Debby pushes too hard, he can threaten to leave. That creates a classic chase and withdraw cycle. Debby feels insecure, so she asks for reassurance. Mido experiences her questions as pressure, so he pulls away. His withdrawal makes Debby more anxious. She asks more urgently. He becomes more defensive. Then the original issue disappears because they are suddenly fighting about her tone, his attitude, her friends, money, or respect. Eventually, Debby lowers her expectations to restore peace. Mido relaxes because the difficult conversation has ended. For a short time, things look better. Then the exact same issue returns. We have watched versions of this pattern throughout their season. Mido previously ghosted Debby. His arrival did not produce the warm reunion she expected. They argued during moving day. They struggled to repair the damage. The Halloween conflict created more questions about anger, blame, and how Mido treated Debby's support system. Then Debby decided the solution was to stop having serious conversations. But avoiding the pattern did not break it. It only delayed the next explosion until they were standing in front of a wedding altar. And then Mido said he could not find himself there. That wording deserves attention because it leaves several doors open. Some viewers immediately heard manipulation. A section of the audience believes Mido was not truly ending the relationship. They think he was creating a crisis, so Debby would panic and offer him something better. Maybe California. Maybe more support for acting classes. Maybe a move closer to Hollywood. Maybe more control over their shared future. That theory is possible, but it is still only a theory. The scene does not prove Mido was negotiating. There are other reasonable explanations. Mido may genuinely feel lost in New Orleans. He may have imagined America as exciting, glamorous, and full of professional opportunity. Instead, he found himself dependent on Debby, struggling with communication, and unable to build a career without money and training. He may miss Egypt. He may miss his family. He may miss being independent. He may feel that every part of his American identity requires Debby's approval. That kind of relocation stress can be real and painful. Moving to another country can remove a person's confidence almost overnight. Someone who felt capable and respected at home may suddenly struggle to communicate, work, travel, and make basic decisions. That can create embarrassment, frustration, and anger. But relocation stress does not excuse everything. It does not excuse refusing to communicate honestly. It does not excuse insulting Debby or attacking her friends. And it does not fully explain why a man entering through a fiancé visa appears shocked when marriage becomes urgent. Mido knew why he came. He can reasonably object to being surprised with a chapel. He cannot reasonably act like the entire possibility of getting married appeared from nowhere. That is the contradiction viewers cannot ignore. He wants an American acting career. He wants classes. He wants professional opportunities. But when Debby asks whether he wants the relationship connected to that American future, his answers become unclear. Many viewers are saying that Mido appears more committed to becoming an actor than becoming Debby's husband. Some fans believe appearing on 90 Day Fiancé may itself help him gain attention. That is public speculation, not a confirmed motive. There is no proof that Mido entered this relationship only to gain television exposure. And Debby has publicly defended him against that accusation. She has argued that someone would not leave his country, family, language, work, and familiar life only for a possible acting opportunity. That defense matters. Debby knows more about their private relationship than viewers do. She also makes a valid point. Moving across the world is a major sacrifice. But that does not completely settle the debate. People can have more than one motive. Mido could care about Debby and still view America as an opportunity. He could genuinely want love and also want Hollywood. Those two desires can exist together. The real question is which desire wins when the relationship begins blocking the career. Would Mido still choose Debby if she could not finance his classes, move closer to Hollywood, or help him build an acting career? And the same question should be asked about Debby. Would she still choose Mido if being with him meant moving away from New Orleans, spending more money, and receiving less emotional reassurance than she expected? Or is Debby more attached to the future she imagined than the man currently standing in front of her? A section of the audience is also defending Mido over the chapel situation. Those viewers believe Debby ambushed him. They argue that she ignored his discomfort and created a public decision point because she wanted to force an answer. That criticism is fair. Taking someone to a wedding venue when the relationship is unstable is not romantic problem-solving. It is escalation. Debby treated marriage as if reaching the altar would repair the distrust already living inside the relationship. But marriage does not fix poor communication. It does not create emotional safety. It does not erase family concerns. And it does not prove whether Mido loves Debby or loves the possibilities connected to staying in America. A wedding would only place legal and emotional weight on the same unresolved problems. And that brings us back to the reported marriage. According to secondary reporting citing Louisiana records, Debby and Mido reportedly married in December 2025. Until the couple directly confirms the full situation or the underlying records are independently reviewed, that information should still be described carefully. But assuming the reporting is accurate, the marriage does not erase what happened inside the chapel. It makes the chapel scene even more important. Something changed between Mido saying he wanted to return home and the couple reportedly getting married. What was it? Did Mido finally offer genuine reassurance? Did Debby agree to support his career? Did they discuss leaving New Orleans? Did Mido calm down after feeling cornered? Or did Debby receive one small emotional gesture and treat it as proof that every larger problem had disappeared? That last possibility would match their established pattern. Mido withdraws. Debby panics. A reconciliation follows. But the original question remains unanswered. If they did marry, Hollywood is likely to become an even bigger issue. Mido's career dream affects where they live. It affects how they spend money. It affects how long he remains financially dependent on Debby. It affects whether Debby feels valued as a wife or used as a pathway. And it affects whether Mido feels supported or controlled. The resentment could build quickly on both sides. Debby may think, I brought you here. I supported you. I married you. Why am I still not enough? Mido may think, I left everything behind and married you. Why must I give up my dream to prove that I love you? Both arguments contain emotional truth. Neither solves the relationship. The conflict involving Debby's daughter and friends is also unlikely to disappear. They already questioned Mido's intentions. If Debby married him after the chapel breakdown, their concerns probably became stronger. They may feel that Debby ignored every warning. Debby may become more defensive because criticism of Mido now feels like criticism of her judgment and her marriage. That can slowly isolate her from the people trying to protect her. But the other side matters too. If Mido constantly feels watched, doubted, and judged by Debby's circle, he may become more resentful and more desperate to leave New Orleans. That creates another loyalty test. Will Debby defend her daughter and friends? Will she defend Mido? Or will she keep trying to satisfy everyone until nobody trusts her? For the rest of the season, I expect Mido to reverse his decision about leaving. That prediction is partly based on the secondary reports claiming they reportedly married. But the important question is not whether he changes his mind. The important question is why. A sudden romantic speech should not be enough. Viewers need to see what materially changed. Did Mido decide he truly wanted Debby? Did he decide he wanted America? Did he receive a promise involving acting? Did they make a compromise about location? Or did they simply return to their usual pattern of temporary peace, without real resolution? I also expect Debby to accept less reassurance than she originally demanded. She may receive